Welcome back to the Director's Garage. I am your host and resident idiot, Michael, and I have a packed show for you guys today. So we have a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. And first up, man, 2022, what are you doing to us? It's been brutal on our music icons. Now with Meat Loaf. Now, I can't say that I have a connection to Meat Loaf's music the way I do, say, Ronnie Spector, but there's a wild story here, and I'm going to talk about it in a headline.
Headlines, get your headlines.
I did like songs like 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad, but, then there's songs like Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Well, forgive my adolescent self, but to us, that was a chick song. That's what we'd say back in the day. We were into Aerosmith and Pink Floyd, AC/DC, and Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix, and Eric Clapton were our gods, Well, in truth, we liked a lot of music that we weren't really supposed to like. We just wouldn't be caught dead admitting that to our friends. God, no.
Please.
I secretly held Barry Manilow records and a few by Neil Diamond. But of course, Boston and Zeppelin II were in the front of the crate. Now, years later, as I learned the recording process and expanded my musical horizons, there was no denying the achievement of Paradise. It's a classic 3-act musical at its bones, and as it turned out, no one wanted it. Now, Meat Loaf and a guy named Jim Steinman, who later produced Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart and Air Supply's Making Love Out of Nothing at All. Talk about your band records in my group. Well, they were touring together back in 1974 on the National Lampoon Tour, and the two teamed up and wrote the bones of Bat Out of Hell. But the labels just weren't interested. Now, a mutual friend and a Utopia bandmate brought the project to Todd Rundgren, who saw potential in it. Now, Rundgren was a studio wizard. His credits included Badfinger, Straight Up, what an album, and Grand Funk Railroads Were an American Band. Now, major releases, right? As well as his own studio career. His most notable project was Something Anything and included the song Hello, It's Me. Now that's a classic. Rundgren and Steinman wanted to make the ultimate car sex song where everything goes horribly wrong. Well, mission accomplished, but when it was done, the label that they acquired backed out and Rundgren picked up the production tab. Now, the band lineup for Paradise is pretty impressive, including Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band members Max Weinberg and Roy Bittan. Now, to sing female lead, they recruited another National Lampoon cast member, the singer Ellen Foley. Now, she would sing background vocals on a bunch of the Clash singles, and she went into acting later, and she was the first public defender on the TV sitcom Night Court before Marky Post got the job. There are crazy threads hanging off this song, right? And then you have Yankees announcer Phil Rizzuto, the classic voice of the Yankees, doing the play-by-play section. Once the song and the album were finished, they still needed a label to distribute this unusual record. Well, it was Weinberg's bandmate, Steven Van Zandt. You know him from The Sopranos, right? Well, he took it to Epic, who put the record out. Now, the guy who took the deal, this is great, was a guy named Steve Popovich. He was a guy who launched the careers of Boston, Cheap Trick, and the solo career of Ted Nugent. Think he knew what he was doing? Bat Out of Hell is the 4th best-selling album of all time. It outsold Dark Side of the Moon, Sgt. Pepper, Rumors, and Zeppelin IV. This album that no one wanted has undeniable street cred, even if it isn't an album I happen to own. Rest in peace, Meat Loaf. Next up is a studio update. Now, I don't do this very often, but I do get questions here and there about the systems in the director's garage, so let's dive in a little. The first up is the actual room. Now, this house where the show comes from was built in 1939. You would expect nothing less from the quirky director's garage, right? Well, every time I go to replace a wall plate or a switch or a fitting, whatever it is, you have to first untangle the mess left behind from the previous 80 years of ownership, right? So we took a power hit the other day and it set off a trickle down of issues that made my life more complicated than you'd ever want to imagine. Now, the main systems, which is like the Mac Pro computer and the drives, those are battery protected. When the surge hit, the computer and the drive just kept running, no harm, no foul, and everything on the drives is backed up and it's redundant. These are RAID stripes. I can lose 2 drives in the stack and we're still good around here. But the surge did take down my network computer. Now, I have a 10-year-old Mac Mini that kind of runs the software, that controls the lighting and things like that. Well, the linking hardware around the house, some of it died in the power surge. So rather than replace all of this stuff, which is like 10 years old, it's Insteon, I decided that maybe it's time to let Alexa take over. So as I'm pulling switches out of my wall and I'm trying to fit these new Wi-Fi switches in, I noticed that all the electrical boxes are undersized. So now I've got to rip the wall apart, put in a new box, wire it into the old box, patch everything up. It's a never-ending amount of work. Now, I also had to revamp some of the routing, the video routing in the director's garage, because the Mac Mini fed the plasma screen. Well, now I've got it feeding from the switcher, so I can now take this and make it any source I want to make it, including any of the cameras that I'm using for this show. You can see my overhead, and I can even go like totally vintage 70s and put the picture in the picture in the picture in the picture going back to infinity, which is dumb, which means I kind of love it. But it's really for the title card. And then you'll also see something new and blingy down here, and this is a web presenter monitor for it. And this lets me repurpose the Director's Garage video feed that we're recording the show on right now into the computer if I'm making, say, a Zoom call. So that's really good. But this thing also talks to the internet, and it'll talk directly to YouTube, which got me thinking that maybe I should start considering doing a live stream. What would that look like, right? What does a live Director's Garage show include? Well, let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see. I'm starting to roll that around and think it through in my head. But I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. For instance, like Andrew over at the Headphone Show. He does a great hangout on Saturdays. He does a great job. I would never want to step on that turf. He does it so well. And you'll see me in the chat there from time to time. But whatever happens in a live stream, I want to make it different. It's got to have something different. It's got to be quirky like this show. It's got to have an angle. I don't know what that means, though. And then one last thing. Hang around to the end of the show, and I'm going to tell you all about episode 95, which is our next episode. There's going to be something big. I'm going to leave it at that for now, and that's called a tease. And those are your headlines for today.
Headlines, get your headlines.
Now, today we're heading back into unboxing mode. Yes, I'm going to be pulling out a mid-tier closed back of a headphone that I semi-auditioned back at Can Jam. Don't worry, this will all make sense shortly. Well, the reviews on this headphone, it's getting late, folks. The reviews on this headphone are pretty highly regarded, and I'm still looking for a closed back that will offer more comfort than this Neumann that I mix on back here. This is what I use for most of my mixing sessions, but maybe offer a little more fun like the Fostex deep here in the background. So yeah, the comfort's a real issue on the Neumann. So anyway, I picked this up last month when I saw it go on sale. I spent my own cold hard cash on it. Yes, it's another headphone financed by the bank of Director's Garage, and I realized this is not the best way to find a profit hosting a YouTube channel. I know. Well, I buy a lot of these products myself, and sometimes I get a break from like Audio 46, which, believe me, is so greatly appreciated. But generally, I like buying gear myself because it removes bias. Nothing comes from a manufacturer, and that way I'm not obligated to promote or push a brand or give a favorable review. Now, I did review hi-fi products direct from hi-fi, and I was kind of uncomfortable doing that anyway. So it's something that I've not revisited since. On the one hand, now if I find something that I like about a product, I just say it. And on the other hand, I generally try not to dump on a product because nobody sets out to make a bad product, right? So I try to find something about the product that I appreciate, or that I feel that someone else might appreciate about a product, even if I don't like it. But all that said, I think it's time to shred some cardboard. You better bet your life or love will cut you just like a knife. Got that one? That's You Better You Bet by The Who off their 1981 Face Dances album. This is the first record after the tragic death of drummer Keith Moon, and it featured Kenny Jones from The Faces on drums. It's a fantastic collection of songs, as was the follow-up, It's Hard, but there's little doubt that the band took a massive hit when they lost Keith Moon, one of rock's best and most unpredictable drummers. And we're getting down to it. This should be a fairly quick unboxing, I'm thinking. Not much to this one. And here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready? Wow! And we've got some bubble wrap. And another box. Let's dig deeper. Another box. Looks like this thing just kind of flips out, and we're going to see something here. Are you ready? Let's do it. Oh, and it's a velvety bag. Yes, it's a velvety bag. This is getting dumb. Let's just open this thing. Drop it down, tear it open, and pull it out. And oh, look at this. It's a Dan Clark Audio Ether CX Drop Collab. It's the Dan Clark Audio Drop Collab, the Ether CX closed back. Now, this is a planar magnetic driver surrounded by carbon fiber cups. Now, I auditioned the Ether C at the Dan Clark booth at Can Jam, and I was taken by their sound signature, and this is a headphone that went on my short list, and then I saw Zeos promoted this as one of his very favorite headphones, and then when it dropped, pardon the pun, to $750, I was all over it. And because it's a drop, these things are fairly bare bones. They come with a bag, and then they come with a cable. And there's not a lot of nonsense here. It's pretty much just straightforward. That's what you get. There were a couple of things that were in the box that I'll show you now. There's this quick start guide, which tells you something about inserting a pad, which is in this little envelope here. This is an absorption pad, and you can use this to put a foam in there to dampen something. I don't know what it does. Very cryptic left and right markings on these. They're just stamped only in the headband, and it's it's like an impression. It's a stamp. So I'm looking all over these things. There's nowhere else it's marked left and right on the cups. Very simple adjustment on these things. They just slide up and down the two wires, but they don't feel like there's too much clamp pressure. They feel like a good thing. And yeah, these are cozy. These are cozy. But the cups are beautiful carbon fiber. This is very well constructed. Not sure about this little deal here, this yoke. It's a little bit on the cheap metal-y kind of feel side. The headband above, not the most expensive arrangement I've ever felt. But I like that it's natural leather on top. That feels good. These pads don't feel too synthetic to me. I don't know if they are or not. And again, you've got these cups down here. The cups don't go very deep, so your ears do touch the inside, the outer part of the headphone, but it's a comfortable little soft feel there. One thing I appreciate is that they came with a 4-pin, and they came with this adapter to go from a 4-pin down to an XLR. So nice work drop on including something a little extra. Sometimes their stuff is a little bare bones, and the cable doesn't feel that bad to me. It's on a par with other stuff. $750 headphone. I would expect a nice cable. I wouldn't expect a world-class cable. And this one has decent length. This is about the perfect length for me. I'm pretty good with it. I want to start this little sonic journey with Depeche Mode off of the Violator album, and I'm going to go to Personal Jesus and take a listen to that. Good dynamics on that track. It's a very bright presentation up first. I haven't listened to the song in a long time, but I remember it going deeper. So I'm wondering what the bass response is like. I'm also wondering what kind of sound isolation is going on, because I'm playing this at a very high volume right now. I'm not getting like a big slammy feel out of this. I'm going to try a different track. I'm going to go to some Public Enemy. I'm going to listen to Shut 'Em Down. It's a driving, deep, bassy song. Very hard-hitting. I just wanted to try and push these a little bit out of the gate. I'm not hearing the deepest bass out of this. I'm getting a pretty good separation. I'm getting a fairly decent image out of these. Not a wide soundstage at all. They still have a little bit of a brightness to them. And I wonder if these pads would change things any. A pad will usually take some of the brightness out. I'm not going to mess with it now. I'm going to do it in another show. What I'm hearing so far are great technical components. Like, I'm hearing a lot of crispness. I'm hearing a lot of imaging. Not the widest of sound stages, but I think what is bothering me is that I feel like right now I'm hearing components. I'm not hearing a coherent, stitched together presentation. And I want to go to some stuff now that maybe can give me something a little more musical and see what happens. I'm going to go to the Grateful Dead. I haven't done a Grateful Dead song in a while. And I'm going to go to Friend of the Devil. I'm going to move this up to the Fonitor X and throw the power at him. It should be able to take the juice. So let's see what happens when I give him the juice. Now, it likes the power better, I think. I prefer this. I was listening on my tube before. This is solid state and a lot of juice. Same rig I put the Sesfara on. Pretty good. I want to try one other pairing. That was better. And I'm going to try and right out of the Chord TT2. This is Grateful Dead off of American Beauty. And I'm changing up the amping now. I'm going to go to something that's got more comparable power to the Fonitor, a little bit lower power, but it's solid state as opposed to the tube. I didn't feel that the tube was giving this enough juice in the bass. Okay, there's a jump in detail right away. I'm not getting that concussive effect, so I'm definitely more in the reference bass camp with these. It's not bad, it's just what they are. And that actually makes me think that maybe they're good for what I was looking for, which is a headphone to maybe give me a break from this Neumann occasionally. And this may be that headphone. All right, I'm going to go to some Paul Simon now. I'm going to take it down a little bit. This is a really well-recorded album. This is his first album, Eponymous, Paul Simon, 1972, Mother and Child Reunion. And I'll do Me and Julio also. There's a really nice image on this headphone. Not the widest thing, but they're closed backs. So they're kind of what I would expect. I'm not getting that blown away feeling that I had in the Dan Clark room at Can Jam. Is that the tuning on this? I don't know. But they're not quite giving me that same zhuzh. It is a nice sounding headphone though. And it's just not an immediate like, yes, this is definitely the one to buy. I'm not getting that vibe from these. Upper mids are hit or miss. They're like when the chorus comes in on this and the background singer starts singing, a little on the bright side. I'm not thrilled with it. I'm getting a little better bass representation out of this song now that we've gone to solid state. And Paul's voice is nice. He doesn't have the greatest vocals in the world. I'm going to go to something a little more intimate. I'm going to go to Diana Krall, and I'm going to go to The Look of Love off of that album. I want to hear, do these things have some nuance to them? The mids, I just don't know about. It's not an immediate yes for me. I mean, these are going to take some listening, and I'll play with these pads and see what it does. I'm going to pause right here. I'm hearing some good and bad on these, and the good is there's really good imaging, and there's decent speed. These sound crisp and nice and reasonably fast, especially for a sub $1,000 headphone. You're getting some value there. Are they great? I don't think they're great, at least initially. The bass doesn't extend tremendously deep. It helped going solid state and giving them a little more power. That seemed to help, but it's not and the treble is nice. I didn't have much problem with the treble. The lower mids are fairly decent, and the transitions between the bass, although it's not my most representative bass I've ever heard, it could use a little something, but I'm not on board with these mids entirely. The build is decent enough. These are comfortable. I never wanted to rip these off my head while they were on. They were reasonably comfortable. That's a plus. So I bought a mid-tier headphone, and it seems to me like I got kind of a mid-tier experience. Go figure. You get what you pay for. So there you have it. That's the Ether CX closed back headphone from Drop and Dan Clark Audio, and kind of a mixed bag on these. I need to spend some time with them to determine if it's a headphone that I can really mix on, and I got to play with these pads and see if they absorb any of that little bit of honkiness that I ran into. But I'm glad I went on this journey. It does make me want to hear the authentic, the full-blown Dan Clark version of this headphone to hear what the differences are, because I'm not 100% sold on these. I think you get that. I think there are things about this headphone that I really like, and there are some things that don't impress me much. Like the bass response feels a little bit on the anemic side. There's a mid-level honk in the up, like right in the dead center of the mids. I think there's a kind of a little bit of a spike there that I'm not comfortable with. Mixed bag today. So I'm going to thank you guys for stopping by today. We had an interesting time with the Ether CX closed back. A little bit of everything today, though my voice is kind of going. But now might be a good time to subscribe to the Director's Garage to avoid any FOMO. This channel can't grow without your subscriptions. They mean a lot. And I thank you guys for sticking with me, and it's gonna be worth it. Flagship time, folks, because in my next episode, I'm going to be breaking out the next potential Dream Team headphone. Now, this thing has been sitting here for over a month. I just haven't had time to get to it. This is a multi-kilobuck over-ear. It's something I've been asked to review, and it's another headphone I dropped my own stupid money on. Ouch. And I gotta be stupid at these prices. It's gonna be huge. You don't want to miss it. Nice. I want to thank you guys for stopping by today. Always good to see your faces. Give this episode a thumbs up if you enjoyed my first look at the Drop Mr. Speaker's Ether CX. Awesome. And our final look at Meat Loaf's landmark Bat Out of Hell album. Or you can do the other thing if I made your skin crawl and you died a little inside. Can't say I blame you either way, but I will see you before you know it.